people. So today I want to talk to you about truth. That's a pretty big topic. But the reason why I want to talk to you about truth is because it seems to be a subject that a lot of people are very confused about at the moment. Because people seem to be conflating subjective and objective truth. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, conflating means smooshing two things together as if they're the same thing. Subjective truth is the truth that is personal. It's the truth that we have gotten for ourselves from our own life and our own experiences. For example, a subjective truth for me is that Brussels sprouts are evil cabbage. They're just wrong. Obviously, that's a subjective truth. I know that there are people who really love Brussels sprouts. And I'm sure that they've got good nutritional value and all of that. Quite frankly, it doesn't help the fact that people who talk about how wonderful Brussels sprouts are, they say, oh, when you cook them with a lot of butter and bacon, they taste great. It's like, yeah, because you're tasting the butter and bacon. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So, subjective truth. That is what you know from your own experience. And then there is objective truth. So objective truth, it is more like an external truth. It is the truths that can be validated through external measures. And so this is a lot of the confusion that we're getting at the moment between science and scientific truths and personal or even intuitive truths. Of course, when we are at our best, it's actually when these two things meet. But the tricky thing is that objective truth is just true, but it doesn't actually take away from your subjective truth, but it is still true. And at the same time, our subjective truth is just for us. Just because it's true for us, it doesn't mean it's going to be true for anybody else. And it's learning to differentiate those two. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, of course, fractology. It's one of our foundational principles is about integrity. So it's like, well, objective truth is what is. So it's not that we can really change those things. I mean, sometimes we can understand them more and that can give us a different way of working with them. But it is what is. Gravity is. So that is an objective truth. So working with gravity, we can use gravity to create pumps and store kinetic energy. I mean, that's what hydroelectric is. But if you step off a cliff, well, gravity's going to win because that is a reality that is common to us all. And our personal truths, it doesn't change it. It may change the meaning of it for us. So an objective truth, like it is, I'm sorry if this upsets some people, but it is an objective truth that the world is round. It's a sphere. Well, it's really what do they call it? An oblate sphere or something. It's actually a little egg-shaped because it bulges around the equator, but that is just truth. It's just what it is. Now, that doesn't deny the fact that some people's subjective experience is that the world is flat. And it's like, well, yeah, okay. You haven't been up into you haven't been up to the space station, clearly, because if you had been, you would realize that the world was round, because not only would you have seen it down there, you would have seen it revolving. But if all that you've ever, if as far as you've traveled is around, is to drive for several days, it can seem like the world is very flat. But that's because the world isn't a sphere this big. It's huge. But it doesn't take away from the fact that your individual experience is that travel is very flat. So it is actually in learning how to work with both of these very, sometimes very different realities. Because we need the objective truth. We need to know what that is. Because without that, we're actually denying the reality in which we're living and the world that we need to navigate. At the same time, we need to acknowledge and respect our subjective truth, because it's our subjective truth that will really help us understand more about ourselves and help us grow into our integrity, into who we really are, express our brilliance, all of that good stuff. And that's internal alignment. So how are we going to use these two? How are we going to use the subjective truth and the objective truth? Well, the subjective truth, we first of all have to start by acknowledging this is my subjective truth. It's my belief. But just because it's my belief, it doesn't make it true for everybody. It just means that it is something that I need to take into account when I am making choices, because that is something that is going to help me navigate my life, make choices for me that actually are going to work for me, that are actually going to help me be more of who I really am, support me to move along on my path. But the objective truth, so your path, it doesn't exist just in your own little world. Your path, you are a member of the society. Everything that you do in your life is co-created by those people around you, by people that have produced the goods and services that you use, the people, if you're on social media, the people that you subscribe to, or the people who subscribe to you, it's all a co-creation. So if you want to actually create a path for you that not only serves you, but that has some ease and grace about it, you're going to need to pay attention to those objective truths. It's kind of like if you're going on some sort of mad safari, you need to actually pay attention to the environment. Moving through a desert requires very different things to get you through the desert safely than it does getting through a jungle. You need to know what environment that you're operating in, and you need to respect that environment, because just as you are doing your best to find your path in life, everyone else is trying to find their path in life too. And if we all pay attention to that objective truth, that is what enables us to, what I call, create the choreography. Just like in one of those wonderful old Hollywood movies where there's all these people are dancing, but they're all just moving around each other. That's what we need to do. We're all in our own paths, but we need to move around each other so that we can all create what we want to create for our own lives. And when we do it that way, it works for us as well, because it means that the environment is not going to resist what we are working on creating, which is what creates the ease and grace in our path. And in fact, when we get really good at it, when we get really good at aligning objective reality with our subjective reality, or our objective truth with subjective truth, that's when we start to experience real synergies, real synchronicities, because we're learning how to choreograph our own internal alignments so that it fits with those external alignments. And when we can do that, well, it's really brilliant. And it's a kind of brilliance that also supports us to remember that we're brilliant.